Steve had a great relationship with his boyfriend Noel. They'd been together for 3 years and decided to celebrate by going on a trip to Japan, a place Steve always wanted to visit with Noel. But 2 days before the trip, Noel changed his mind, saying he had something important to do. To not waste the prepaid plane tickets and hotel reservation, Steve decided to go alone. Despite the disappointment and sadness, he decided to make the most out of this trip and take lots of pictures for Noel to see. During his tour around the country, Steve couldn't shake the feeling that a particular guy was always nearby. Although he considered the idea of being stalked, he dismissed it. Upon returning to his hotel, he noticed the same guy following him right up to his room. Fed up, he finally turned around to confront the strange guy. "Why are you stalking me?" Steve questioned the strange guy. In response, the guy chuckled and asked, "What makes you think I'm stalking you?" Steve explained, "You've been following me all day, even to my hotel room." The strange guy, still chuckling, opened the door to the room opposite Steve's, saying, "I think you're the one stalking me," before entering and closing the door. Steve, feeling embarrassed, hurriedly retreated to his room, hoping the ground would somehow swallow him up. Despite Noel's absence, Steve enjoyed the rest of the trip by himself. Understanding Noel's busy schedule, he looked forward to sharing the pictures he captured during the trip upon his return. While on the plane, Steve found the strange guy sitting beside him. With a smile, the guy remarked, "Wow, you again. Is this fate trying to bring us together?" Ignoring him, Steve plugged in his earphones to avoid further interaction. Once the plane landed, he hastily left, eager to part ways. The first thing he did when he arrived was to go to Noel's place to surprise him. However, Noel's reaction was different this time. Instead of the usual excitement, he casually patted Steve's head, saying, "I'm busy, let's talk later," before leaving the house. Confused and saddened, Steve tried to make excuses for Noel's behavior, attributing it to possible busyness and fatigue. A week later, after no contact from Noel, Steve finally received a call from Noel inviting him to a restaurant as an attempt to make up for missing the trip. Excited, Steve eagerly prepared and chose a dress for the occasion. However, at the restaurant, Noel didn't exhibit the usual gestures of care, like pulling out the chair. They ordered their food, and Steve, hungry, started eating. Upon its arrival, as he ate, he noticed that Noel, instead of eating, was just staring at him. Unlike the past, where Noel's gaze was filled with love, this time his eyes conveyed a different sentiment. After Steve questioned Noel about not eating, Noel abruptly stated, "Let's break up." Shocked, Steve dropped his fork and nervously giggled, asking, "This is a joke, right? Is today April Fool's Day?" He checked the date on his phone with trembling hands and tears forming in his eyes. Noel took Steve's shaking hand, admitting, "It's not a joke, and I'm sorry for ending things like this." Steve, with a shaky voice and tears now streaming down his face, asked, "Did I do something wrong? Did I upset you? I'm sorry if I did, but please don't say you want to break up." Noel replied, "You did nothing wrong. I just don't feel the same way I used to, and I've met someone else whom I'm now in love with." Steve's hand fell lifelessly from Noel's grasp as he asked, "Since when?" Noel replied, "It's been a while now. That's why I'm ending things. I can't be seeing you both." Steve wiped his tears, composed himself, and said, "I understand. Love comes unexpectedly. I can't stop you from being with someone you love. It's your life, and I wish you a happy life with your new love." Noel expressed gratitude, saying, "Thank you for understanding." Just then, Noel's phone rang, and as he answered, he hastily and nervously got up and left. As Noel left, Steve broke down in uncontrollable tears, his tears flooding the plate of food in front of him. Amidst the tears, someone pulled a chair and sat in front of him. Through Steve's blurry eyes, he recognized the person as the strange guy from his trip. Steve, trying to stifle his sobs, said, "You again?" The strange guy replied, "Yes, me again, and although you didn't ask, my name is Levi." Steve, attempting to hide his tear-streaked face, said, "Go away. I don't want to talk to anyone right now." Levi then asked, "Are you going through a breakup right now?" Steve turned and questioned, "How did you know?" Levi, with a shocked expression, replied, "Wait, really? It was just a guess. What a coincidence, I'm also going through a breakup." Steve remarked, "But you don't look sad." Levi responded, "Really? I am a little bit sad though, but actually, I broke up with her." Steve hit Levi's shoulder and abruptly got up to leave, saying, "You're all jerks," and left, leaving Levi confused and speechless. After spending days in tears at home, Steve received an invitation to a party. Although his initial inclination was to decline, he chose to go, hoping it would provide a distraction from thoughts of Noel. Sitting at the party on his phone, Steve heard a familiar voice call his name. Turning, he saw Noel, accompanied by a beautiful lady, presumably the one Noel had left him for. Steve contemplated running away, but that would be awkward and embarrassing, so he forced a smile and stood there. Noel asked, "How have you been? I hope the breakup isn't taking a toll on you. I know how much our relationship meant to you." Steve, feeling now annoyed, replied, "Of course it's not. Actually, I met someone, and we connected instantly. I just knew he was the one, and we're dating now." Noel replied, "Oh, really? I'm glad you found someone to help you forget about me. I hope to meet him someday." Just as Noel spoke, Steve spotted Levi shoving desserts in his face. Without thinking, Steve pulled Levi and introduced him to Noel, saying, "You don't have to wait till someday. He's right here. Meet my boyfriend, Levi." Levi, seemingly prepared for this moment, extended his greasy hand to Noel for a handshake, stating, "Hi, I'm Steve's boyfriend, and you must be his past mistake he never wants to remember." Noel looked at Levi's hand with disgust, reluctant to touch it. However, Levi forcefully pulled Noel's hand into a handshake, saying, "Not so nice to meet you." Noel quickly pulled his hand away, and at that moment, his girlfriend, who seemed displeased, complained, "Babe, can we leave? My feet hurt, and I want to go home." Noel replied, "Whatever you want, my princess," making Levi visibly gag. Noel's girlfriend signaled that she wanted to be carried, and Noel obliged, carrying her in his arms as they both left. Steve looked visibly sad, while Levi observed with concern, asking if he was okay. Steve reassured him and thanked Levi for his help, preparing to leave. However, Levi jumped in front of him dramatically, asking, "Are you running away again? Are you trying to defy our fate?" Confused, Steve inquired about what Levi meant. Levi continued with his act, suggesting, "You know, we have coincidentally met a lot, and this might be fate telling us that we are meant for each other, don't you think?" Rolling his eyes, Steve glared at Levi, stating, "I'm really not in the mood for all this." Levi turned serious and said, "Okay then, can I have your number, at least to thank me for helping you just now?" Reluctantly, Steve gave his number to Levi and left. At home, as Steve sat sadly on his bed, still not over his breakup, he received a text from an unknown number. The message contained a bunch of silly and funny stickers, which unintentionally made Steve laugh. While he suspected it was Levi, he chose not to reply. 3 months passed, and Steve continued to receive silly and funny stickers from Levi. They never exchanged actual messages, but Steve found joy in just receiving stickers. Meanwhile, Steve's sister Alia, who owned a major company, insisted that he intern there. Reluctantly, Steve agreed to the internship, as he found himself with idle time and not much else to occupy his days. He and Alia decided to act like strangers at work. Upon arriving at the office, Steve was surprised to find Levi there, whose face lit up with a smile at the sight of him. Levi walked over and greeted him, saying, "We meet again." Steve responded, "Yeah, are you sure you're not stalking me?" Levi chuckled, "I don't have to. Fate will always bring us together." Steve shook his head and asked if Levi was interning too, to which Levi confirmed with a yes. Curious, Steve inquired if they were the only interns, and Levi mentioned they were likely 3. Just then, the third intern entered, leaving Steve in shock. It was Noel. Noel walked up to Steve, commenting, "Long time, huh?" as he reached for Steve's shoulder. However, Levi swiftly intercepted, saying, "I'm sorry, but I'm a really jealous guy, and I don't like other people touching my boyfriend." Noel scoffed, waved his hand dismissively at them, and said, "See you around," before leaving for his office space. Steve pulled Levi to the eating room and questioned him about his actions. Levi jokingly replied, "I was just protecting my boyfriend." Steve scolded him, stating, "I am not your boyfriend. We only acted like we were a couple once. I didn't ask you to continue the act. Stay out of my business." Levi apologized and assured Steve that he wouldn't interfere in his business anymore, then walked off. The following days, Levi distanced himself from Steve, only engaging in work-related conversations, although he continued to send sticker messages. Meanwhile, Noel spent most of his time on cheesy phone calls with his girlfriend, showing little interest in the assigned intern tasks. One day, Noel asked Steve on a double date, but Steve declined. Noel, insinuating Levi's influence, commented, "Is your controlling boyfriend not okay with a double date?" Steve denied the assumption, stating, "He is not controlling." Noel declared, "That's settled. I'll send you both the date, time, and place," leaving Steve with no room to refuse. Levi overheard the conversation, but chose to ignore it. Steve couldn't ask Levi to go on the double date with him because he had already told Levi to stay out of his business. He tried to approach Levi several times, but found himself unable to speak. In the end, Steve decided to attend the double date alone and come up with an excuse for Levi's absence. Steve entered the restaurant for the double date slowly and sadly, when someone gently held his hand. It was Levi. Steve stared at Levi with surprise, but Levi didn't look at him or say anything. Instead, he walked them to their table, where Noel and his girlfriend were already seated. Levi pulled out a chair for Steve to sit and took a seat as well. Throughout the double date, Noel and his girlfriend kept doing cringy things with his girlfriend, trying to make Steve jealous. They attempted to test the authenticity of Levi and Steve's relationship. Levi, however, adeptly played the role of a boyfriend, swiftly responding to the cues. At the end of the date, Noel and his girlfriend left first, and Levi was about to follow suit, when Steve stopped him and asked with a sad voice, "Why did you come?" Levi replied, "If I didn't come, someone would be sitting here alone, third-wheeling his ex." Steve then expressed gratitude, saying, "Thank you, and I'm sorry for the way I acted the other day. I don't know what was wrong with me." Levi simply responded, "Mumk." Steve continued, "So, can you please stop ignoring me at work? I don't know why, but it hurts." Levi responded again, "Mumk." Steve asked, "So, are we cool now?" Levi nodded and said, Steve smiled, and they left the restaurant hand in hand. Cheerful Levi returned, and he stopped, ignoring Steve. They became close both at and outside of work. The text messages from Levi transformed from just funny stickers to chatty messages and long calls. One day at work, Steve entered the office of his sister's co-owner and friend, Bella, only to witness Levi hugging and kissing her on the cheek. Feeling a strange sense of jealousy, Steve quickly left before anyone could notice. Despite reminding himself that he and Levi were just friends and co-workers, he couldn't shake the feeling. Steve ignored Levi the entire day, until Levi eventually cornered him in the eating room, asking why he was being ignored. Steve denied it, but Levi insisted. Steve finally asked, "Are you dating Bella?" Levi stared at him with confusion, then burst out laughing and questioned, "Why would you think that?" Steve explained, "Well, I saw you two kissing in her office." Levi quickly responded, "Wait, hold up, no way, Bella is my sister." Steve, surprised, said, "Really?" Levi confirmed, "Yes." "Wait, were you jealous?" Steve nervously replied, "No, I was just curious," stuttering and fidgeting with his fingers. Levi chuckled and said, "I'm going to act like I believe you." Steve then added, "Actually, Alia is also my sister." Levi exclaimed, "Really? Wow, that's why I always say we are meant to be together." Steve questioned, "You say that as a joke, right?" Levi replied with a serious tone, "No, I mean, I used to, but now I really want us to be together, because I like." Before Levi could finish, Steve blocked Levi's mouth with his hand, made a quick excuse, and ran off. Steve had a sense of what Levi was about to confess, but he wasn't ready to confront his own feelings. In the days that followed, Steve acted awkwardly whenever he was around Levi. Levi understood the reason behind Steve's behavior, but chose to give him some time instead of pushing the conversation. One day, when Levi wasn't around, Noel approached Steve and expressed a desire to get back together. Noel confessed that he realized he still loved Steve and had already ended things with his girlfriend. Steve stood there, looking at Noel, speechless. Levi witnessed the interaction, and when Noel noticed Levi, he intentionally hugged Steve. Levi immediately left, looking angry and sad. Steve pushed Noel away and firmly stated that he didn't want to get back together with him, and walked off. Steve saw Levi heading home and rushed to grab his hand, as if he had something to say. Levi angrily pulled his hand away, and Steve asked if he was mad at him. Levi replied, "Do I have the right to be mad at someone else's boyfriend?" Steve asked what he meant. Then Levi said, "Aren't you happy now that you are back together with Noel? I saw you two hugging passionately." Steve quickly replied, "I'm not back together with Noel. He hugged me, and I pushed him away, I promise. I don't want to get back together with him." A smile formed on the corner of Levi's lips, and he said, "Oh." Steve mentioned, "I moved into a new place and will be throwing a little housewarming party on Saturday. Can you come?" Levi nodded and said, Steve smiled and said, "Okay, then I'll be expecting you," before shyly running off. On Saturday, Levi arrived at Steve's house. Upon entering, he looked around and asked, "Did I arrive too early?" Steve replied, "No, actually, everyone else called and said they wouldn't be able to make it, so it's just you." Levi smiled as if suspecting something, and asked, "Oh, really?" Steve nodded, then led Levi to sit on the couch and joined him. Levi teased, "Are you doing a housewarming party without food and drinks?" Steve explained, "I ordered food, but it hasn't arrived yet." Levi jokingly rubbed his tummy and said, "But I'm hungry though." Steve asked, "Is there anything you would like to eat for now?" Levi moved his face closer to Steve's and said, "Yes, you." Steve suddenly hiccuped and covered his mouth. Levi laughed, saying he was just kidding. Just then, the doorbell rang, and Steve hurriedly got up to open it. It was the food delivery, and Steve took it inside, closing the door behind him. Levi went to check out the food and teasingly asked if Steve ordered this small amount for a housewarming party. Nervously, Steve explained that he only ordered the food after everyone had canceled. Levi teased, "Are you sure you didn't use the housewarming party as an excuse to lure me to your house?" Steve quickly changed the topic, stuttering, "Would you like to eat now? I mean, the food." Levi smirked and said, "Yes." As they were eating, Levi paused and asked, "Do you always eat this clean?" Steve inquired if there was an issue with that, and Levi, with a fake sad face, replied, "Well, I was hoping you would get some sauce on your lips, then I lick it off, but never mind," before continuing to eat. Steve intentionally smeared sauce on his lips and cleared his throat loudly to get Levi's attention. Levi noticed, stared at Steve's lips for a few seconds, then slowly moved towards them. Steve closed his eyes anticipating a kiss, but instead, he felt a tissue rubbing his lips. Opening his eyes, he saw Levi cleaning the sauce with a tissue. Levi said while smirking, "Sorry, but I can't kiss someone who isn't my boyfriend." Steve replied, "Then make me your boyfriend." Levi asked, "Why do you want to be my boyfriend?" Steve responded, "Because I like you." Levi asked again, "Why do you like me?" Steve replied, "I don't know why, or even when I started to like you. I can't give a reason. I just know that I really like you. I get really jealous when I see you smiling with other people, and I always want to be around you." Levi, staring at Steve's lips, said, "If I kiss you now, it means we are dating." Steve asked, "Won't you tell me that you like me too?" Levi replied, "I was going to tell you the other time, but you stopped me, so you'll have to wait until I want to tell you again." As Steve was about to say something, Levi put his finger on his lips, shushed him, and said, "I can't hold it in anymore, while longingly staring at Steve's lips. He moved to kiss Steve, and as their lips were about to touch, he slowly shifted his lips to Steve's ear and whispered, "I love you." This sent chills all over Steve's body, intensifying his already fast heartbeat. Levi then brushed his lips from Steve's ear to his cheek, then to his lips, and opened Steve's mouth with his own, initiating a passionate kiss that gradually went from gentle to intense. Steve quickly pulled away when he realized his excitement was visible and shyly rushed to the bathroom, covering himself with his hands. Levi noticed and laughed, teasingly asking, "Do you need help?" When Steve emerged after cooling down, Levi playfully suggested staying the night, but Steve pushed him out. At the office, Noel's girlfriend came and created a scene, breaking valuable things and attempting to attack Steve, believing that Noel broke up with her because of him. Levi swiftly intervened, protecting Steve. Bella and Alia called security to remove her and fired Noel, who was caught on CCTV attempting to steal company secrets. Steve discovered that Noel's attempt to reconcile was motivated by learning that Alia was his sister. When the commotion settled, Alia and Bella looked surprised, staring at Steve and Levi, who were holding hands, with Noel checking Steve for any injuries. Bella exclaimed, "Excuse me, what's going on here?" She turned to Alia and asked, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" Alia replied, "Yes, I am." Levi, seemingly oblivious to their questions, asked, "Can my boyfriend get a day off?" Both Alia and Bella exclaimed, "Boyfriend?" Levi nonchalantly confirmed, "Yeah." Alia then said, "Sure, he can get a day off." Levi thanked her and pulled Steve along, taking both of their bags. Ignoring Steve's attempts to signal that he was okay and didn't need to go home, Levi led the way. As they were leaving, Bella stopped them and questioned Levi, "I thought it was only your boyfriend that needed a day off. Why are you leaving too?" Levi quickly replied, "Well, I need to take care of him. Bye," and hurried off with Steve. Levi and Steve's relationship had its imperfections, but each day was filled with a mix of love, joy, and genuine care, affirming that they were indeed meant for each other.